in honor of the late, great Larry Allen, who was one of the toughest guys to ever put on a football helmet, we're going to do a draft today of the toughest players all time in the National Football League. Christopher, I will give you the first selection.
Well, I don't know. When I think of tough, like right away, I think one of the first guys I think of is Chuck Bednarik, right? That's where I'm gonna go. I mean, Chuck B played two ways, right? Offensive lineman, middle linebacker. I mean, if you asked, hey, Chuck, where's the closest hamburger store, he would point, and then fingers went five different ways. So you'd be like, where do I go? Over there or over there? He walked around with fingers that were making right turns his whole life. I mean, so Chuck Bednarik to me was one of those early figures as a young kid watching NFL films, right, where it was like, whoa, him and Dick Butkus are like those first guys you learned about and that were enforcers over the middle of the field.
The image of him standing over
Frank
Gifford,
right.
after he delivered the hit that put Gifford out of the sport for a full season. Just incredible. And he was the last true two-way player. The great image of him in the locker room after the Eagles won the 1960 championship. Here's that hit.
Oh, there it is.
Eric just flattening Frank Gifford, and then that iconic photograph.
Picture.
Unbelievable.
Right.
That's one of the things where when you see it for the first time, like you just, and it speaks to the brutality of a day gone by in football, but that's the way it was when he played, and he had a great.
There it is. Hey, smoke him if you got him. Smoke him if you got him.
1960, Eagles over the Packers, excuse me. I didn't want to rewrite history there. Cigar in one mouth, and in his only mouth. Cigarette in the one hand.
In the other mouth?
Yes. Well, there are other openings, I guess, where you could try to be creative. You can put it in your ear. But cigarette in one hand, cigar in the mouth, enjoying the championship. And great player, and truly one of the all-time greats and one of the toughest guys of all time. Okay, man, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's one I want to leave for you, so I'll leave that one for you,
okay.
And I'll just go with a guy that kind of defined my era when I first discovered football. I was going to say earlier, with hockey players, the telltale sign was the missing teeth. With football players, the telltale sign is the fingers that point everywhere except where they want you to point. But Jack Lambert, a guy who had not necessarily the fingers, but he had the missing teeth.
Yeah.
He was the toughest son of a gun I've ever seen because he wasn't built like a linebacker.
Right.
He was just like some wiry guy they found hanging out in the parking lot. They threw pads on him that were too big for his body. They put him out on the field, and he destroyed everyone. And he was fearless, and he struck fear in the hearts of everyone he dealt with. And for me, one of the most searing images of youth, Super Bowl 10, Roy Gerela, the Steelers kicker, misses a field goal.
Right.
Cliff Harris decides to get smart and come out and congratulate Gerela, a little pat on the head. Good job. Thank you. Jack Lambert notices it, and down
I love it. And
Harris.
No flag. I love it too. No flag. It's just nothing. He just throws him on the ground.
I don't think anybody would have had the nerve to flag him in that moment, but down he went. That was that. And Cliff Harris whining about it instead of engaging with Jack Lambert. Like, hold me, and then it's hold me back, please hold me back.
Right.
Please, somebody hold me back. I wouldn't have missed Jack Lambert ever.
No, I mean, as we go here, and we'll talk about more. Yeah, I think there's a few people on that Pittsburgh defense we could probably talk about that you wouldn't mess with ever, that would go down as like the toughest SOBs in the history of football. I'm going to go to a guy that's similar to him, but my era, right? Little different position, safety, Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott, I have tremendous respect for Ronnie Lott. I've been around him a lot in my life, right? I played with his son, Ryan Neese, in Tampa Bay, so I'd always see him there. I know the passion, the love for the game that Ronnie Lott had, let alone, right? When you think of hard-hitting safeties, I think Ronnie Lott, for anybody that was alive in that era, that's the image that comes to your head. The 49ers weren't known as a physical, tough football team, right? It was the West Coast offense and throw the ball and Joe Montana. But really, their defenses were incredibly good, incredible, right? And physical. And it all started with number 42 at safety. I mean, let's just be serious. One, we know he will literally knock your head off going over the middle or as a running back or whatever. The guy chopped his finger off instead of like, wait, I'm going to sit out the game. If you have to do surgery and repair this, well, then just chop it off and I'll play. And he did that. I mean, I don't know if that doesn't embody tough, love for the sport, all of that. And I got to give him a little extra credit because he was this close to kicking the shit out of Big Phil. So, Big Phil's pretty tough, but he don't want Ronnie Lott. He don't want to mess with that. That's always one of my favorite ones there.
Hey,
but yeah.
But Phil, you got to give Phil credit. He's grabbing his jersey and he's in his face.
Yeah, well, Phil ain't going to back down either. Phil's, part Irish pub fighter, so that's in his background as well. And yeah, he wasn't going to back down, but I don't know if I liked his chances.
Bavaro's staying out of it. I mean, Bavaro knows I'm not getting between those two guys. No way.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was staying up late on a Monday night when I was 10 years old right there. I was probably crying at that moment, mad that they lost the game.
That's funny, though. Bavaro knows he's got to go help, but he really ain't going to help.
Yeah, he was like, wait.
I'm not messing with Ronnie Lott, and I'm not going to catch a stray from Phil. So that's pretty good. I can go a lot of different directions. Let's give an offensive guy a little love here. Earl Campbell. And again, he had a reputation for just constantly answering the bell and running the ball in an era of football where it was far more rough and tumble than it is today. But I think of iconic moments, things that become seared into your brain, that become imprinted on your sports-loving soul. The hit that Earl Campbell delivered on Isaiah Robertson, the Rams linebacker.
Oh, my gosh.
This is an all-timer. It's illegal now, but it wasn't then. And then the back end of it, the jersey ripped apart. You forget that part. And they had those tearaway jerseys back there. Where's his jersey? Who is that guy? Look at that. The jersey's completely gone, but that was after he delivered this. Now, Tony Dungy tells a great story. Back to Jack Lambert. Tony Dungy said when they were getting ready to play the Oilers, they played that specific moment in the film room, and Jack Lambert said, never show that in here again, ever.
Wow.
So they didn't want to be intimidated. They were intimidators, and seeing something like that is the kind of thing that could cause an intimidating defense to lose its edge a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had a lot of highlights like that, right, where people thought they were going to come up and, clean Earl Campbell out, and he sees him at the last second, and you get cleaned out. Definitely. I mean, he epitomizes, right? Bell cow, between the tackles, power runner. Did that at Texas, being the Tyler Rose, and then, of course, continued that with the Houston Oilers. Like, yeah, Earl, the man, the absolute man, and I got the privilege to be around him a lot at my Texas days. Love Earl Campbell. All right. Ooh, I know, you're right. We didn't give offensive guys a lot of love here, but I'm going to go to a guy that I had experience against that. I never experienced anything like this guy in my playing career. We know middle linebackers are tough. We know that. They're all tough, right? But then there's some that are like physically, mentally tough and bring it to another level, and that's Ray Lewis, right? Ray Lewis was so tough. This kind of just says it all. He was so tough, he could sing on the football field, right? And like a high-pitched voice, and everybody was like in my huddle during the commercial timeout, like, oh man, Ray's crazy, he's scary. And you're like, he's singing a song, but that doesn't go on in football. And then like some weird little dance, right? He's doing it, right? And it wasn't his come out of the tunnel dance, but he literally, I'll never forget 2006 first game of the year. We're nervous as hell. It's the Ravens. We know they're the big bad defense. And he's singing a song that he's made up on the fly about being football time. And he's like, it's football. And I'm telling you, my offensive line is looking over their shoulder while we're in the TV commercial break. And they're all like looking like this every 3 seconds. Oh, man. Man, he's still singing. He's not scared at all today. He's very loose, right? And then he calls out a few plays and knocks a few guys down, and it's just like, yeah, so Ray Lewis is tough as they come, mentally, physically, smart, all of it. Amazing.
Well, I skipped over this guy a few times because I thought you would take him. I'm going to go ahead and take him.
Go ahead, take him.
I mean, we think of him as a great pass rusher. You don't become as dominant as he was in the era of playing on green cement if you are not a tough SOB, or, as I know from the shirt that I have that he signed at
Yes.
the very bottom, a bad Mother Hubbard. And it's not Hubbard at the bottom. I was telling somebody that story the other day that it's there it is at the bottom. That's just to make sure in case you had any doubt, he is a bad self-described mother effer. But yeah, you'll see this, and I trip across this from time to time. There's highlight reels of the stuff he could do. It was incredible.
Oh, incredible.
Unbelievable what he did on a football field.
Yes, incredible. Exactly right. I mean, as tough as they come. No, like just
This is
total
one game, Pete says. One game. One
yeah.
game against the hapless Lions, who look even more hapless. Look how fast. I mean, this isn't about toughness, but the guy did everything.
Yes.
At the highest levels we've ever seen.
Reckless abandon. Had no regard for his body. Just brought it every football game. Run game, pass game, didn't matter, right? It was needle to the red. He was gonna redline it no matter what. So yeah, I mean, I saw so many unbelievable physical plays, and like Jason Garrett talked about with Charles Haley, from the stories I've heard with my dad, right? I mean, Lawrence Taylor was a little that way too, right? You had to deal with him in the locker room. He wasn't just go out and play guy. He loved football. Right? He might not have been in the weight room and doing that, but he loved football and all of that from everything I said. And here's a great story you'll like. They're getting ready, the Giants, 1986 divisional playoff game. They're going to play, the 49ers, Joe Montana. It's the game where Jim Burke crushes Joe Montana like a rag doll and knocks him out late in the game, and then Lawrence Taylor pick six for a touchdown. But they were missing a wide receiver at warmups, right? They're missing Bobby Johnson, number 88, good player for them, but he's not there at warmups. And as they're walking into the tunnel before the game, right? And we're done with warmups. Now we're going to go in the locker room one more time. They see Bobby Johnson walking down the ramp to come into the locker room, right? And kind of casual and whatever else. And of course the team's a little mad at him or whatever. And they're in the locker room a few minutes later. And Lawrence goes over there and, he pats him on the shoulder, as my dad says, and it looks like he's going to say something kind of warm and cozy. And he goes, hey, Bobby, it's okay, man. It's all right. You'll be good. Just get dressed and get ready. But just know, after the game, I'm going to F you up, right? So he had that enforcer of the locker room type of attitude as well. Now, they won 49-3 and things are happy, and I don't think anything ever happened. But nonetheless, tough SOB, Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. Well, let's do another round. That's a good story. Let's see. I like to give some of these guys from the NFL's past a little love. Who else do you have?
Well, I mean, Jack Youngblood, right? That's one that's another early grow up, right? NFL films. What? He played a Super Bowl with a broken leg? I mean, what? Wait, he was a defensive lineman and he did it? How is that possible? So Jack Youngblood, certainly one of those that is up there. And then off your Steelers team again, Mean Joe Green. How could he not be, in this conversation for one of the toughest guys we've ever seen in football?
So apparently this final round was 2-1. So that's fine. I'll give you two more as well.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the great things about Jack Youngblood, and I think of those moments that, again, become seared into your brain and never go away.
Right.
Yes, playing in the Super Bowl against the Steelers with the broken leg. I think we've talked about this before. His brother Jim was on the team as well.
Right.
So instead of the initial, he had his whole name on the jersey. I still have to get me one of those Jack Youngblood jerseys. That was so cool to a kid who loved football. Yeah, they got their last name on the jersey. Man, if you're really good, you get your first name on the jersey too. That's how I thought of it. This is just great. You got Jack. Just in case anyone doesn't know, it's Jack Youngblood. And I met him one time at a Super Bowl. Great guy. And just, you could tell he could probably put a uniform on then and go pop somebody, and that was well after he had finished playing. So great pick, and Mean Joe Green as well. I got to give some love to a guy that I don't think ever really got the appreciation nationwide he should have. He finally did get to the Hall of Fame. He has one of those moments that we'll always remember. Steve Atwater, the Broncos safety.
Oh my gosh.
When he decided to lay the lumber, not just to some little scat back, but
Yeah,
to one
right,
of the
right.
biggest, baddest Earl Campbells of his day in Christian Okoye. That was, I think, was a Monday
It
night game,
was. It
Monday night or a
was.
Sunday night. It was
It,
a night game in Denver.
yeah.
He delivered a hit, and he was not concerned. He was mic'd up. Teammates said they got Okoye at fullback, and Steve Atwater said, "I don't give an F." I don't know if we got that video or
Yeah,
not,
well,
but
I mean, nobody messed with Christian Okoye at the time, right? He was the Nigerian nightmare. He was famous for running everybody over. So it was the first time in his career where Christian Okoye, giant power running back, huge shoulder pads, it's the first time ever somebody sent him
oh my
backwards.
God.
I mean, and it was mano y mano. It wasn't like he didn't see him coming or anything like that. And yeah, Steve,
And he sent him backward.
backwards, like stop here, go backwards. And because you've seen him, but Steve Atwater is a specimen. I mean, he is a big dude, big square shoulders, thick neck, right? You could certainly see he wasn't afraid of anybody. I mean, he's one of those guys in the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl 31 against the Packers, basically knocked himself out. And I think Brooks at receiver, right, late in the game, the second to last play of the game before, they make Favre throw the ball incomplete on 4th down. But, yeah, he was an enforcer in the middle of the field.
This is another great moment from him, too, at a goal line play where he fills the hole and he blows the guy up. And I feel in my memory, and I prefer the memory to reality on this one, in my memory, it was a snowy night in Denver. But
Are you sure you're not thinking the Giants versus the Broncos and Gary Reasons knocking out the earpiece?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So it's okay. Hey, old timer, don't worry.
See,
I'll get
they're
your
all
memory
starting
straight.
to blend together. They're all starting to blur together. You're right. It was Gary Reasons. It wasn't
Right.
Steve Atwater. But for me, I'll still say it was Steve Atwater.
Okay.
So those are just some of the all-time toughest guys in NFL history. Let's look over.
Deacon Jones, Dick Butkus,
Yes.
we haven't talked about, right? They would certainly be in that.
Ironhead Hayward,
Oh.
father of Cam Hayward. He was as tough as they get, college level and pro level.
Right. I think like one of the first enforcer safeties in football, and you could tell me more, right, because you were around. But, I mean, Jack Tatum to me was the first guy I remember being talked about in that way in the secondary, right? Just had this aura of like, you better watch out because Jack's going to hit you and he ain't scared of anything. He's certainly another guy that was on the list here.
Bronco Nagurski, just one of the all-time great football names. Like, what else would you do with your life if your name is Bronco Nagurski than play football? On a touchdown against Washington, he took 2 linebackers in opposite directions, stomped on a defensive back, crushed a safety, and then bounced off the goalpost and cracked the brick wall at Wrigley Field. When he went back to the huddle for the extra point, he said, "That last guy hit me pretty hard." So
that's great.
And also, we got to go more recent, a guy who retired earlier this year, Aaron Donald. He was a nice guy away from the field. He was stone cold killer on the field, and on the practice field, don't make him mad.
You're gonna go there.
He's swinging your helmet around.
Yeah. He is definitely like another guy that when it comes football game or football time between the lines, he can turn a switch on, as good as anybody we've ever seen. Yes, and hey, I mean, you gotta be tough to be 283 pounds and play the position he did and have to block and hold his ground and beat up guys that were sometimes 60, 70 pounds bigger than he was, and he can make them look like a fool. I mean, yeah, that Aaron Donald is special that way.
And last one, say what you will about post-football Brett Favre.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, to be
one of the toughest
Iron
ever.
Man
Right.
at that position, before the rules were enforced and written in a way to protect quarterbacks, and he answered the bell constantly, and just unbelievable longevity. And it wasn't that he shied away from hits.
No,
he got banged around. He got concussed, and he's talked about that in the past. Pre-2009, the guys who played the bulk of their careers before the NFL woke up to the issues with concussions, they were in games with concussions.
Yeah,
maybe sometimes more.
We just
than
call
one.
it a bell got rung. That's all we call it.
Junior
back
Seau.
then. Right.
Think about Junior Seau, the late Junior Seau. He played his entire career, all except for maybe 1 year before the NFL finally realized probably not, safe and smart for guys to get their bell rung and go back onto the football field. But he kept doing it and played at a very, very high level for a long time and was also one of the all-time greats. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.